The past year has been incredibly successful for me in my efforts to grow as a person. I've gone from being terrified of germs to not caring at all. I have regained so much of my life from this act alone. I have also pushed myself through many uncomfortable situations such as social events and confrontational experiences. Recently, I had my first ever attempt at a climbing wall whilst we were on holiday. Whilst I was not terrified of going up the wall, the anxiety of interacting with the people running the wall was an odd experience. I seem to despise failure in any way whatsoever, so my body responds by making me want to avoid it. However, I pushed through and started to climb. My initial attempt on a moderate difficulty wall was unsuccessful. I then had another go at an easier wall. As I got about halfway up, my heart was going from the effort required and the fact I was getting higher with each step. I wanted to jump back and call it there, but even then I was scared of the harness not working properly, so that made it even scarier to go higher. Then, all of a sudden, with my heart racing, I get to the top and ring the bell. Now I'm just here thinking, this is it. I had to do a leap of faith, not quite Assassin's Creed style, but one nonetheless. After a very awkward descent, grazing my elbow on the way down, I made it to the bottom. I found what was on the other side of fear, and well, it was an odd feeling of, well, that's done, what's next? I feel that this is a side effect of the perfectionism from my OCD. I am trying to learn to enjoy big and small victories. I can say, however, that pushing myself to achieve that climb was far better than the feeling of disappointment I would have had if I had not done it. This brings me to my next big question: when to stop trying. Sometimes you have to stop trying at something to allow yourself to progress in other areas of your life. Sometimes the goal you have set for yourself may be too big, or you believe it to be too big. It's hard when you want to push and become better at something, but other people bring you down, even if they're just joking. You want to prove them wrong, but you think to yourself, what if they're right? Perhaps, however, it's just us being too sensitive. We have to brush off jokes and even full-blown criticism to push towards our goals. I am trying to build a new perspective on life. I want to build one that doesn't view failure as bad, one that views it as a process of growth. When we first learnt to walk, we started by crawling. We then held on to something or someone to prop ourselves up to allow us to stand. Then, as we took our first steps, we fell, we failed, or maybe we just learnt what not to do and how to make our next attempt better, and the attempt after that better. As we get older, we seem to fear failure so much, even though it is the process on which we build our lives, our basic skills. I also want to rid myself of this perfectionism trait. Whilst technically perfectionism is possible, or rather extremely ideal circumstances, 99.99% of the time you're going to tell yourself you could have done better. I seem to have it in my head that if I am not the best, then I am not good enough. This has to change. I have to enjoy the progress I have made, even in the face of a plateau. Some of the things that I get to experience in life will never be experienced by others, so I'd like to become more thankful of those things, which means focusing on the more positive aspects of my life rather than the negative. If I keep pushing for perfectionism, then I will only end up disappointed and unhappy. I am learning that we can't just think ourselves out of problems. Our brain responds to actions. That was how I beat my contamination OCD, by consistently pushing the boundary of what I thought possible, by facing the germs I even thought impossible that I could ever just let be. I can reprogram my brain to respond the way I want to, a way that I feel is healthier.